Hey everyone, Tony D with the Democratic debate in 10 minutes. And I'm going to have to make it 10 minutes because I keep doing this video, I keep rambling, and it gets cut off. So I'm going to try to definitely keep it under 10 minutes this time. The Democratic debate was another fine mess for the Democrats. I didn't see any strong contenders, really. Nobody, it's the same sort of like, we hate Donald Trump and you should probably vote for us because we're not Donald Trump. And that's not a very strong message. The only guy who really has a strong message is a guy like Andrew Yang, who wants to give everybody $1,000 a month for universal basic income. That's not going to work. That's never going to happen, and he's not going to be elected, so it's kind of pointless. Moving up the charts, you got Tulsi Gabbard, who was pretty strong in my view. She's got good foreign policy instincts. And she was the only Democrat to really help Trump reach across the aisle and help him. And she gets blasted for it at every opportunity. I felt that CNN and the other candidates did everything they could to marginalize her. And I think that's unfair. And I think they'll all pay for it later when she comes back much stronger in 2024, which is what she's really running for at this point. I think she hurt herself a little bit by agreeing with Andrew Yang and universal basic income. I think she's also hurt herself a little bit by going along with this impeachment nonsense. Nancy Pelosi, by the way, backed off today, and sounds like it's just going to be an endless inquiry, which really isn't going to get the Democrats much of anything, other than the next time a Democrat is president, expect Republicans to drag people in front of Congress continually trying to, try them, and then expect those Democrats to then ignore the subpoenas because that seems to be the precedent we're setting now, continual investigation, which means that the investigations will become worthless. So it'll be pointless to investigate anybody because either it'll just be considered, a non-starter by the voters, or it'll just be ignored. So they're really kind of abusing their power. What I think Congress should be doing is their job, which is to put a check on the presidency by doing legislation, by curbing spending. That's the kind of things Congress is supposed to do. But they're not really doing it. They never have. They want to avoid their responsibilities so they can all be reelected. It's very hard to cut spending and then go back to your constituents and brag about that. You can say, well, I helped cut spending, and then, your opponent says, well, yeah, you helped cut spending, and now we don't have this great program anymore, or we don't have this, or we don't have that. That's part of the downside of cutting spending. Even if you cut spending in something that has a lot of fat, like the military, they'll say, oh, you're weak on the military. Yeah, cut the military budget. Oh, we've got enemies everywhere. Blah, 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 blah. So it's tough. But, if we don't cut spending at some point, and that is a tact that the Democrats could use to attack Trump. They could say, hey, you spend too much money, and that's a very valid critique of him, as opposed to, hey, you're a jerk that talks too much on Twitter, which is a critique of Trump, but it's not a valid one of his, of his policies. Nobody really cares that he's a jerk on Twitter. Everybody's a jerk on Twitter as far as I'm concerned. The place is a total crap show. Anyhow, getting back to the Democrats. Biden looks old. He looks weak. The Ukrainian thing is hobbling him. He's not going to be able to stand up against Trump. Trump is an energy dynamo. Biden has to struggle to smile. Trump just talks off the cuff. Biden clearly does not, in my view, and he's not going to have a really good explanation of why his son had this job and why he denied knowing about it. It's just a mess. And he's going to have to defend the entire Obama administration since he was VP. So good luck with that. Elizabeth Warren, her main thing is she lied for like decades about her ethnicity. So it pretty much negates all her identity politics arguments. So Trump only has to bring that up, and it pretty much undercuts a lot of things. She doesn't have a very strong game in terms of arguing policy. For a while, she was arguing fiscal policy a little bit, in terms of like credit card debt and that kind of thing. But turned out that was just very surface stuff that I think she kind of, got into for a while because, it helped her on the Daily Show. But now she seems to have abandoned that, and she's embraced these identity politics so wholeheartedly. I don't think she realizes how terrible an idea that is. Really only about 20%, 25% of the Democratic Party is really hardcore into identity politics. Most of them are on Twitter. I think her advisors are giving her poor advice because they're on Twitter all day, getting the pulse of the electorate, and the Twitter is the worst place to get that because it's been so heavily censored in the United States, politically, Reddit as well. Social media has been heavily censored, so it's created its own echo chamber for left-leaning politics, and you cannot trust it. Bernie Sanders doesn't stand a chance in hell. He's too elderly. He's had health problems, and all the polls show people don't want socialism. They don't want it. Smartly so. This idea we're going to give free health care, free college, and we're going to give it to every illegal immigrant in the United States. I mean, that's insane. Listen, if you want free college, Mexico has free college. Go down there and have free college if you think it's so worth it. I mean, it's cheap to live in Mexico. But you can see what free college in Mexico is like, and you can see what it's like to have free college. Basically, when you have free college, you're turning college, which was this special thing that only certain super smart or rich people could afford, you're turning it into high school. You're turning it into 4 more years of high school. So it's going to become worthless. All but worthless. It'll be about as worthy as a GED. And, and we'll be paying through the nose for it because the colleges aren't going to lower their prices once the United States is paying for everybody's college. So, and the quality of the college experience will just suffer even more if that's possible. It's pretty bad now, in my view. Then you got Pete Buttigieg. Pete Buttigieg would be a good candidate against Trump. He probably wouldn't win, but he's a young guy. He presents well. He's gay, but he doesn't beat people over the head with it, which is checks some boxes on the left, but also makes him appealing to everyone because he's not running on, hey, I'm gay, vote for me. He's just a guy who happens to be gay. And, he's got, I don't agree with his policies, but I would listen to him. He's a nicer guy than Trump. People would like him, and they would like to believe, and that's why they would vote for him. They would like to believe he would be a better president because they would like him better than Trump. So, and he doesn't have the baggage that all the other candidates have. He's in 4th place, basically. So he would be the pick, but the Dems probably won't pick him. Biden might pick him as a running mate, maybe, because he's younger. I think he's probably going to go for Beto, which will be an absolute disaster. I think Beto's running for VP. Some of the pundits had talked about that, and I now agree with them. Beto's running for VP because he'll go hard left, and appeal to that hard left crowd that someone like Biden doesn't appeal to, and that'll be the reason that he brings him in. Total disaster, total landslide for Trump if that happens. Kamala Harris is essentially out of the race, but she's basically going to be running for Attorney General at this point. Anybody, who votes for her, if she can pick up a few delegates and throw her weight behind a candidate at the right time, maybe get a VP slot if it's Elizabeth Warren, that could be, her stepping stone to whatever. And she'll probably run again. She's young enough she could. I think she's a horrible candidate, has a ton of baggage, very sketchy. Would not vote for her under any circumstances. Tulsi Gabbard did well up to a point. I mean, she tried to attack Elizabeth Warren, but the CNN guy cut her off. I never seen anybody get cut off like that. It was horrendous. And I think, CNN is clearly flacking for Warren, possibly Biden. And then Andrew Yang and his wacky, we'll give you $1,000 a month. That's never going to work. It's never going to pass. But, he keeps getting into debates because he keeps talking about it. And, that's somewhat popular. But you also have to remember the people who are going to vote for $1,000 a month, They're the hardcore leftists who want some kind of communism or socialism, or they're going to be people who, I don't know how they're even going to vote because they're so broke they don't have a computer to see this stuff. So, I don't think you can get enough poor people. If you could get enough poor people out to vote, Andrew Yang would probably win in a landslide, but I don't think he will. And, he doesn't stand a chance in hell. The Democratic Party won't allow a guy like Yang to be crowned. So I think it's probably Biden, then backup is Warren, and then maybe Hillary Clinton if she enters the race. But we'll see. It was, another disappointing turnout for the Democrats. I didn't expect much. It was just, I guess it was slightly better than the Rainbow Town Hall they had, but really the Democrats just continue to embarrass themselves. I think at this point, they really need to step back and say, hey, we lost 2016. Maybe we're doing something wrong.